Right, so we'll discuss some Inyani Sefira Omer. As we know, we're in the time period between Pesach and Atzeres. As the Torah tells us, Sfartam lachem mimacharas HaShabbos. You begin counting mimacharas HaShabbos on the day after Shabbos. According to the Karaites, that meant Sunday. That's a whole daf in the Gemara showing how the Karaites were wrong. But we have a tradition, mimacharas HaShabbos. Shabbos means Yantif. That's why, in fact, interesting, and we'll get to that. There wasn't, I think in the Beis Yosef, the Torah, they called it an Omer. People didn't, during Sefira, some people didn't do certain types of malacha at night, because since Sefira is referred to as Shabbos, it was an old minhag about not doing certain malachas. But either way, it's mimacharas HaShabbos. Shabbos means Yantiv. But if we know the second day of Pesach, we start counting Sefira. And we go until Shavuos. So the question is, mi Pesach li'ad Atzeres. So why is, so the Ramban calls this time period, the time period of Sefira Omer is a very ambiguous time period. It, on one hand, it's a happy time. The Jewish people are counting up to Matan Torah. They're counting up the days where they're going to be receiving the Torah in Har Sinai. And yet we'll see later on the Gemara in Yevamah is about Rabbi Akiva's students and the Crusades. Different things happen later that make this into a more ambiguous time. In contrast to the 3 weeks, it's pretty clear. It's a sad time. It's a time of destruction of the temple, the beginning of the siege. So the 3 weeks is clearly a time of Avelis. We'll see why the poskim are much more makel regarding Sefira Omer in different areas than the 3 weeks. So Sefira Omer it's part of the ambiguous time, and also it's less of a time of mourning, as we'll see. So either way, the Ramban calls this time a Chol Shamoed period, the intermediate days. We just had Chol Hamoed Pesach. Now we have a long Chol Hamoed, the days between Pesach and Atzeres, and so those days are like a quasi Yantif. Of course, not in terms of Issa Malach or anything like that, but in terms of happy days. And in fact, that's why is it called Atzeres? Atzeres Shavuos is known as Atzeres. So in Israel, Shavuos is 1 day. Biblically speaking, so what do you mean? So call it the beginning. Why are we calling it the end? Is the beginning and end all in 1 day? What do you mean Atzeres? Atzeres stop, closure. Shmini Atzeres, I understand. We just celebrated Sukkot, and now we move into the final days. We call it Shmini Atzeres. But Shavuos, it's 1 day. What do you mean it's Atzeres? So that's what the Mefarshim explained with the same concept as the Ramban. Yeah, it is an Atzeres. The days have begun by Pesach, and now basically the Yantiv of Shavuos is the culmination of the holiday of Pesach. That's why, even though it says Man Simchasenu 3 times in the Torah, not in that lesson, but it uses the word Simcha, Yantiv, but interesting enough, even though the same halacha applies, but it's not mentioned by Pesach. So the different reasons given. One is some Medrash brings down because of the Egyptians drowning, but what other Medrash brings down is because it's not a complete Simcha. That the whole point of Sefira Omer, the whole point of Yetzias Mitzrayim is to receive the Torah. So it's not a complete Simcha until the Jewish people got the Torah. So that's what the Ramban explains. This whole time period between Pesach and Atzeres is a time of Kabbalas Torah and a time of Chol Shamoed. So on one hand, Sefira Omer is a very happy time period. It's a time of Matan Torah. Yet, as we'll see later on, the minhag developed as Yemei Avelis. There's some type of form of mourning developed during the time of Sefira Omer. So the first mention of any type of semi-mourning period, the Torah brings down.
How does the Rambam know that?
How does the Rambam know it's a Chol Shamoed?
Yeah, where does that come from?
No, I mean it's the whole purpose of. I mean, Chol Hamoed is not using it in a. it's not in a halachic sense that
the time period has any status. How do we know that?
He's saying he's just calling it a chol. He's saying that status between Pesach and Truas is clearly a happy time. Historically, the Jewish people.
He's just saying.
Yeah, he's not. I mean, he's just saying.
I think he asks why is Shavuos only one day. All the other, like if you look at Pesach and you look at they're each 7 or 8 day Yom Tovim. So his answer is that it's one day because the end has always one. You can't have an end of 8 days. So he sees this as the end of that.
Yes, I'm just saying, right, that's so, but
well, there are statements that says Shmini Yisrael is supposed to be 29 days after Sukkot. There's no Joshua that says Shmini Yisrael is especially supposed to be 49 days after Sukkot, but Kosh Baruch Hu said, come closer, they move closer. There's no point of the question about the Shalom at that point in time, so the fact that there was a parallel.
Right.
Okay, sorry.
Okay,
but it's interesting to know.
Shut off anyway. If I sent the text, I guess it goes off.
Nowhere in the Torah does it. Nowhere in the Torah does it actually say that the Yetzias Mitzrayim was in order to give us the Torah. It does say of Sona Hotzi and Misham. In other words, what it says is the purpose of taking us out of Mitzrayim was to give us Eretz Yisrael. It doesn't mention the purposes for Matan Torah.
But I mean, Chazal, in the Torah itself, right.
The Haggadah quotes it.
Chazal quote all the time. Here, go on.
The Haggadah quotes the pasuk Lehovi Asona and Eretz Shanish Kodam. So we came out of Mitzrayim in order to go into Eretz Yisrael. But nowhere do I recall seeing. We often talk about it, and it's in the rabbinic literature, but anywhere in Tanakh where it would say that the purpose of Yetzias Mitzrayim was to come to Matan Torah.
But either way, even if the purpose, it's still a happy time, so it's just it's just 40 years instead of 49 days. But I'm saying, but it's still right. Either way, the Ramban is clearly working with the Chazals of Matan Torah, which, in Chazal, that's what they always talk about. It's true, it doesn't mention explicitly in the Chumash. Even though, right, but and also the Ramban in his Hakdama to Shmos, he calls it the Sefer Golus v'Geula, and that he's referring to the Mishkan, because obviously we didn't get Eretz Yisrael, in the book of Shmos, but that's a separate discussion. Maybe because Yom HaShmot's coming up, but either way. So getting back, so the Torah brings down that the first thing that's brought down is the meaning of not getting married during Sefira Omer, because we'll discuss different types of apparent prohibitions during Sefira. Well, some will be apparent, some will be real, but let's say the prohibition of getting married, then we'll discuss shaving and haircuts, and then we'll discuss music, and then see if any other thing. A lot of people think a lot of other things apply, but they don't.
But answered everything already.
So if it's inherently, the Torah indicates it's a happy time, by what right can we have minhagim of Avelis in what the Torah has indicated as a happy time?
I thought number one, it's not indicated directly. That's just based on the Rambam, but that's a kasha in terms of when exactly do all these minhagi avelos, and because of that, that's the reason why we're not as strict during Sefira. As I'm saying, in contrast, that's the point they make. They don't answer how they did it, but they point out because of that reason.
I'm saying, how can you keep it at all?
Yeah, that's the same question like during.
You make it mitzvah like it would be a mitzvah, just like you would.
Yeah, kind of like on Chol Hamoed. Let's say there's a prohibition. Well, shaving's a different issue on Chol Hamoed we'll get to, but let's say music. Assuming you don't listen to music during Sefira or whatever, so that's the discussion also. How could you have avelos? So that's what they discuss also, right? But obviously, Chol Hamoed is a stronger thing, but I guess also because all it says it stays in between Yetzias Mitzrayim and Matan Torah, so it doesn't actually set it up as Man Simcha. It's just Al Pi Sefira, that if you're looking forward to, it's a good question. They don't necessarily discuss. That's why a lot of a lot of Mefarshim discuss, where it came from and all that, how the Avelis. But the bottom line is here. It's a good question. It's always a question that bothered, different poskim or Mefarshim, like how could you change a happier time into sad? But how? Because it's a good question. But the bottom line is here. But they buffer by saying it's not as severe, and that's why it's an ambiguous time. We'll see. You can make a shachiyano as opposed to the 3 weeks. So it's not a riot to Zman, if it's not a Zman Simcha, you can't make a Shachiyanu like the 3 weeks, but we'll get to that. So the first...
the Paskin mentioned Rekudim u'Mecholot. Where's music mentioned?
I'll get to that. That's a good question. Maybe it's not. Well, that's the Aruch HaShulchan who invented it. So we'll get to him in a little bit. But let's get to weddings first. So that's the first one that's brought down the minig among the Gaonim. During that time, it's the first time period they bring down a minig not to get married between Pesach and Atzeres. Interesting enough, it's only brought down the whole time period. It's brought down from Pesach to Atzeres. They quote, I think the Torah quotes it, there's a minig not to get married the whole time period. Yeah, we know we have different minhagim, and that gets on to the different girses in the Gemara. One says it's only to pros Atzeres, pras Atzeres, which is it's like 14, 15 days before. That's when you get into 33, 34 days of Sefira. But the first minig was it started off the time of the Gonim not to get married. That's the only thing that existed. The first mention of haircuts or shaving is only, they quote from, I guess apparently the old practice was you had a rabbi, you had a rav, I guess who passed in shilas. And then you had a rabbi, you had a darshana, someone who gave like busser and sermons, a magid. And so they quote this guy, Rav Ibn Shu'ab, I think the Beis Yosef quotes him, who was a darsh, he wasn't the rav of the town even. He was just giving a drasha during Pesach, and parenthetically, not that he invented it, they just used it to show that we're not sure how early before this, but he's quoting, being descriptive, he's saying, and you know what? We know we don't shave and take haircuts during Sefira to Omer. In the middle, in the middle of his Musar drasher, he just threw it out. So the Beis Yosef quotes it, the Ibn Shu'ab, as the first mention of this custom of at first glance it was only weddings, getting married, and then he quotes the concept of haircuts and shaving. So just to point out, and we'll see if it can make a difference later on, weddings are the earliest source. So we're going to see out of all of them, all things being equal, we're going to be more strict over weddings. And then the next step is going to be haircuts and shaving, then music. We're going to see music's going to be on a low level meaning it was introduced later on, as we'll see where music came from. But this
Where's the first about wedding?
The wedding that's already during the time of the Gonim already. The Beis Yosef quotes the minig. That's the old minig. It's around the Gonim period where they talk about the Isser of getting married during Sefira to Omer. Then the Beis Yosef quotes this Darshana Ibn Shu'ab, who was just being descriptive, saying, and you know what? There's also a minute not to shave and take haircuts during Sefira. So the question is, number one, so usually I think it's brought out of an Isser Mistaperes of cutting. As a general rule, we generally assume, based on Hilchas Avelis, that haircuts and shaving are the same. That usually they're mentioned interchangeably, that when we talk about one or the other...
Sorry, just to take it back when I just happened to see a tshuva from Moshe Feinstein this last week about wedding.
Going to weddings,
It's rather ambiguous, but it says that, I guess, because you don't see the question, but it says that you can invite people to a wedding during the time when they're keeping...
Yes, I'll get to the Rav Moshe, but go on. Yeah.
As long as it's outside of the...
No, the question...
Right?
We'll get to it. I'll just say, Rav Moshe writes, but it's a no-brainer. If you're invited to a wedding, you go to the wedding, even if it's not your time. He he discusses is, are you allowed to shave to go to the wedding if you're keeping Sefira then?
No, this question Shiloh was, can you make the wedding?
Oh,
Can you make the wedding during a period where other people are keeping? But he seems to. But he didn't.
No. Can you invite someone else? I think
Or can you invite?
It's on the invitation.
Sorry, was it an invitation?
Can you
Yeah. Sorry, you're right.
Can you invite someone who is holding Sefira at a time when you're not holding Sefira?
Right.
That's the question.
Yeah.
Sorry, you're right.
Right?
The kind of guy come, yeah. So
But can you invite?
It says you can invite and he can come.
And he can invite. But so for you hold the first 33 days. Right. I mean, you hold the first 33 days. He holds from Rosh Hashanah, whatever the exact is. Can you invite him?
Right. So
it seems like if you're saying wedding is the
yeah, I'm saying remote and right, but we'll see. So that because Ramosha writes a definitive yes, and because it's obvious, meaning because in general, and this will touch on a lot of things. Because not getting married, the issue of Sefira is only a minhag. It's not a real din. There's a real din of Mesaveach Chasam Akala. So we'll get to, the minhag, when a minhag is going to interfere with the mitzvah, so obviously, then you go with the mitzvah, not the minhag. But I'm saying, even it's this point, I said we'll even see whether you could even shave or not. Right? Moshe clearly said you could go to the wedding. But there was a further discussion, could you shave if you go? I think I might as well just tell you, and we'll get... Ramosha basically writes, I think he says it depends. He says, if you would only go to the wedding, like if you wouldn't show up to a wedding unshaven like normally, like, so then if it's kind of like an embarrassment, you're going to show up at a wedding and you're all like a maneuver looking, then he says it's okay. But if it doesn't really bother you and you would go anyway, then basically he says not to shave. But that's where he talks about.
Would it be dependent on the simple chassan and kala? Would it be dependent on the chassan and kala wouldn't be happy to see?
No, yeah. So I'm saying he's combining. Meaning obviously the way you feel, but obviously if the chassan and kala would be insulted, then it'd be hard to give them. It would be harder to fulfill your mitzvah, right? So then you'd even be allowed to shave. Yeah. And hopefully we'll get to shaving on Yom HaTzmaut, music at the end of this year. So it goes like this. So therefore, it starts off with marriage, and that's the first one. Then later on, shaving and haircuts develop. So in Hilchas Avelis, it's generally assumed when it says Isser of cutting, it's interchangeably we talk about shaving and haircuts. Someone is say it's mashra from the Rambam. That the Rambam makes a distinction. Again, in Hilchas Avelos he still says it's usher, but the Rambam is right, shaving's a little less. Shaving's not the same as haircuts. Albeit he says you can't do it, but he says it's only an outgrowth of the haircuts. Of course, there's a much more pragmatic difference between shaving and haircuts. As we'll see, is that a haircut you don't have to take every day or every week. You take it once a month. Well, shaving, it'll come up more because it'll be a more pragmatic difference, and that's what we'll get into. It could be different today because we live in a clean-shaven society, so therefore not shaving for a couple of days makes a difference. When you had a beard, it didn't make a difference, as we'll get to what's considered a maneuver in a minute. But either way, so some want to suggest who's allowed to shave on who's allowed to shave on Sefira, the Pri Megadim quotes and others. It's the same rules of Chol Hamoed. Whoever's allowed to shave on Chol Hamoed, they're allowed to shave on Sefira. Like someone who gets out of jail, as the Gemara talks about in Moed Katan, if you're an Anus. You didn't have an opportunity to take a shave before, so even though the Gemara says you really need it has to be an obvious onus. In other words, the Gemara says, let's say you couldn't shave because you were looking for an Aveda. So the Gemara is a discussion. So you were on it, and there was too late. It was Yantiv. The Gemara seems to conclude that's not good enough. It has to be an honest that's obvious to everyone else. Like everyone knows you got out of jail, or everyone knows. So some want to point out that Ramosha doesn't like the comparison to Chol Hamoed. He says it's totally different thing, which it is. But let's just go back and explain shaving on Chol Hamoed, and I'll explain what Ramosha is getting at. So number one, shaving on Chol Hamoed is an issue of malacha. Number one is even though many poskim say we could get rid of the problem of malacha today, but don't want to. If you assume the issue malacha on chol is the deraisa, you could be in theory dealing with it. It's a much more severe question shaving on chol hamoed than shaving on Sefira. Shaving on Sefira is a minute. Shaving on chol hamoed could be, according to, if you want to take the worst case scenario, it could be an issue deraisa. It could be a biblical prohibition, and because the problem was the Mishnah, the Gemara tells us the reason why they said not to shave on chol hamoed was because they want you to enter Yantiv looking nice. So therefore the concern was that if you were allowed to shave on chol hamoed, you'll say, okay, big deal, I won't shave before I forget, I'll leave it to the last minute, and you'll end up not shaving before Yantiv, and therefore you'll end up entering Yantiv Menuvel. So therefore to give more teeth to it, they said, you know what? That you can't shave chol hamoed. And even though Rabbi Tam writes...
So why wouldn't you make it usher to shave after Shavuos?
But I mean,
if that's the whole reason, then why wouldn't it be usher to shave the day
after? The issue is...
You'll go into Shavuos and you'll say, I'm gonna shave the day after.
I know, but Shavuos is already, it's one day, it's over already. But what could you do for Shavuos? Here the issue is, you have an 8-day, 9-day holiday, and therefore they want to make sure you enter Yantiv. So therefore, on Shavuos, of course they want you to do it. That's a regular halach of any Yantiv. The reason why here it's different is because you have a whole Yantiv going in, whether it's Pesach or Sukkot, and you have a whole Chol Hamoed period. You have days where...
We're worried that you'll have one day of Sukkot, and one of those days of Chol Hamoed you'll shave. Therefore, you're not going to shave Erev Yom Tov.
No, we're saying that concern. If you're allowed to shave Chol Hamoed, so then you'll think then you might leave it to the last minute, and you'll end up not shaving
Erev Yom Tov. Why is that different than Shavuos? One day after Shavuos, you're going to shave, so therefore you won't shave.
No, but how's that after Shavuos is over? I mean,
you're going to work the day after Shavuos. People are off during Chol Hamoed, so since it was a big deal to go to the place, and then you can go, so they were worried that you're going to take, you'll leave it for Chol Hamoed.
But even if you're working Chol Hamoed, it's still an Isser. Even assuming even if you're allowed to go to work, doesn't mean all the other halachas,
But generally, people were more free.
Correct.
So they were going to leave it for that point in time.
In terms of the rushing in, Erev Pesach, Erev Sukkot are very busy days, so therefore they'll come to leave it. And that's so they wanted to give more teeth to the gzeira, so they said you can't shave Chol Hamoed to try to ensure that they're going to do it Erev Yantiv. So the Rabbi Tam is the only one who says. So what happens if someone goes ahead and shaves Erev Yantiv? The Rabbi Tam's opinion is then you could shave Chol Hamoed. But all the Rishonim reject Rabbi Tam, even though it makes sense. And it's not even brought down in Shulchan Aruch as the Yesh Omer. It's not until later on, so it's an open and closed case, no shaving on Chol Hamoed. Except for Rabbi Tam saying until the Nod of Yehuda came along later on, and he permitted shaving on Chol Hamoed under special instances. We have a poor barber, he said to go to a Jewish poor barber. It's a big discussion why he permitted shaving. So some want to point out he permitted shaving. It's a secret. So then some want to say, some claim he revealed it, some say he did, but some want to say what the reason behind the secret is during those days, Jews were not meticulous in not using razors. So if you had a Jewish barber, they'd go. If the Jewish barber is closed, let's say Chol Hamoed, they don't care. They'll go to a non-Jewish barber and they'll end up using a razor and violating it to the deraisa. So those Jews that felt it was better for them go find a poor Jewish barber who has a head to work in Chol Hamoed, and then go to him, and therefore you minimize. You don't have the problem of them using a razor. Others say something similar but different, that he said it's better, since the Jews did use razors anyway, so therefore, so they used to use razors every couple of days, let's say. But if you go, there's a certain shear, the Chassan Sofer writes, where it becomes you have to cut a certain amount off for it to be a biblical violation. So he felt that they waited until after Chol Hamoed, so then they're going to end up, when they use the razor, they're going to violate the deraisa. He said better let them shave on Chol Hamoed with the razor, and they'll only violate but either way, it's...
why is it a secret?
No, but it's not a secret anymore. Why,
that's what he writes.
No, he writes...
I'm going to reveal the secret.
I guess,
for years people didn't know.
People didn't know because I guess he didn't want to, say people why, basically you guys are listening, but he revealed the secret. That was so he had a special reason, and then he was the first one after the Nose of Yehuda, but for a totally different reason. And then the Shiloh is, what about Bisman Hazeh? When we have clean shaven, it's the first time, basically, in Jewish history where we have Orthodox observant Jews who shave regularly. Does that make a difference in the equation? Or do I say that now? But what's the whole reason behind it? I should shave Erev Yantiv, so I shouldn't look like I'm a Nuvel on Chol Hamoed. That's exactly what's going to happen. You're going to shave Erev Yantiv, and now if you don't get to shave on Chol Hamoed, you're going to look like a Nuvel. So it's almost like the opposite. So the question is, would it make a difference today? So the many poskim, Avaji Yosef and others, say no, it's a low plug. In other words, only the exceptions the Gemara listed, the Gemara Mishnah Gemara lists different exceptions. Only those that are listed, that's it. And since it doesn't list someone who is clean shaven and now shaved, we can't do it. And others say, well, of course it didn't mention it because it wasn't a possibility then. The Relko wasn't around, or the other brands, Braun, they weren't around yet, so of course they're not going to mention it. So that's the famous tshuva of Moshe Feinstein, who talks about shaving and Chol Hamoed. He basically gives a whole tshuva about why it's permitted, but at the end of the tshuva, for different reasons, he basically says, Bali Nefesh, he says, don't be mocha anyone who shaves. I'll tell you why in a second. The Rav Salvation and Rav Moshe are basically similar, except their results are different, but they basically hold to the same yesod.
They're opposites.
No, not opposites. Well,
because according to
well, it depends what you mean by opposites.
Moshe would prefer you don't shave.
Yeah.
And
in that sense, they're opposites. So I mean,
you have to shave.
Fundamentally, that's what I'm saying. Fundamentally, the Rav and Rav Moshe are going to agree. Practically, they're going to be opposites. Yeah. So in other words, Rav Moshe basically writes the whole tshuva why it's mutter. And don't be mocha someone who does it, but he says I recommend not shaving. And Rav Soloveitchik comes to the same conclusion that it's mutter, and the Rav says if it's mutter, you have a chiyuv to shave. Once you're telling me it's mutter to shave on Chol Hamoed, then you have a chiyuv to look kempt on Chol Hamoed, and therefore you have a chiyuv. In other words, what's the basic yesod that Rav Moshe and the Rav basically use? Is the Gemara says who's allowed to shave on Chol Hamoed? An onus to muchach, someone who is obvious, we know why. Someone just got out of jail, someone who was taken captive is released now, it's public knowledge. So he says, what greater public knowledge? And today, you shave before, someone shaves daily, you shave before Yantiv. Chol Hamoed now, you have a little 2-3 day growth. How could you have anything more nicker than that? It's clear this person shaved before. So both Rav Moshe and the Rav say that today it's mutter. Nothing to do with the nose of nothing with Rabbeinu Tam. They hold it's one of the exceptions today. The fact that we're in a clean-shaven society, people shave. That's why you didn't have it before, because people had beards. If you have beards, you need a lot more to look like a manuvel than a couple of days. So therefore, the difference is it's in what I call the meta halacha. They both see the halacha the same way, Rav Moshe and the Rav, that they think meikar adin is mutter. Rav Moshe's shita, whether it's a general shita or not, we can discuss. But I'll just talk about this specific case. He felt that let's say you have a big boat, going fast, and you have to make a turn. So if you make a quick turn so quick, sometimes the boat can turn over. In other words, Rav Moshe felt even though it's 100% mutter, and don't be mocha anyone who does, the minhag's always been all these years. The Shulchan Aruch says not to shave. Let's not turn things around so quickly. Maybe down the line, but Rav Moshe didn't want to be. He felt it was important to keep something to keep the minhag or to look strange to people. Whatever the exact, I'm just making up what he was thinking. But the bottom line is, based on meta halacha considerations, he said the minhag Yisrael was not to and you shouldn't. And the Rav took more the bull by its horns. He said, well, once you're telling me it's mutter to shave, then you have a chiyuv to shave. You have a chiyuv to look nice on Yantif. So if I'm allowed to shave, then I have to shave. It's not like it's a choice. You're mechuyev to shave. And that was, so I'm saying, that's what I meant by fundamentally Rav Moshe and the Rav are similar. They hold it's mutter. Rav Moshe still said not to. He would, he went along with the minig, and the Rav said no. Not only can you have to. And we'll see. I'll get to the Rav soon by Sefira. He was even stronger what he did about shaving during Sefira. But those are the basic shittas by Chol May. So whether you say it's low, you can't change. It's not mentioned in the Gemara. That's it. Or both Rav Moshe and the Rav, they basically make her a din you can. But Rav Moshe says no. The Rav says you have to. So basically, Rav Moshe doesn't like the connection with the Pri Magana. He says shaving on Sefira has nothing to do with Chol May, and therefore, perhaps according to Rav Moshe, maybe for other reasons, but the mere fact you let out of jail, or the mere fact you can do it on Chol May doesn't necessarily extend. Maybe the minig doesn't extend to you. Maybe it's still also to shave on Sefira, even though, not because Sefira is only a minig, but maybe you still could have a minig of Sefira that you're allowed to do. He doesn't like the comparison to Chol May. Others say based on health reasons, let's say if you don't shave, you're going to break out. So again, it's what the Netziv writes. Anytime you have a minig which goes against, let's say it's Var Mitzvah, and we'll get into shaving Erev Shabbos or not. But let me just finish. So that's the Rav and Rav Moshe by Chol May. So what about by Sefira Omer? So Sefira Omer is only a minig. So so they discussed the question of what about shaving or covered Shabbos with Var Mitzvah, or it doesn't have to be with covered Shabbos. So shaving with Var Mitzvah in a case and even Rav Moshe writes what do you mean mitzvah parnasa. Rav Moshe, who basically says not to shave during Sefira, even though he agrees Meker Adin, you could shave on Chol May, but he says the Sefira, the minig is not to. But a minig never interferes with a mitzvah, and therefore you have a minig to make a living. If it's going to interfere with your parnasa, the boss isn't going to like you. He's going to dock your pay, or you show up with a beer, a half a beer. So then, of course, then he says you're allowed to. So based on this, some want to extend it to what about every week then, tomorrow? Why not? There's only a minig of Sefira. There's a mitzvah to shave with covered Shabbos. So a haircut you don't need. It's the haircut you did 2 weeks ago. It's okay. You don't need a haircut every week. But in theory, if you did, then assuming your hair grew quickly every week, assuming you took a haircut every Shabbos, then there should be no difference according to those who are making on shaving. You should be able to take a haircut also. Practically speaking, I don't think it's true, but I'm saying if it was, so it's just a pragmatic difference, not a fundamental one. So they say it was Rav Henoch Leibowitz, who was he was Rosh Yeshiva in Chafetz Chaim in Queens for many years. In fact, it was funny. I was with some Rabbanim this week, and he said he was quoting Rav Henoch. He said he learned by him. I said, Rav Henoch, he's the one who says that you could shave on Friday. I don't think he's got a beard anyway. He wasn't really shaving. I said, he says, I said, is it true? I hear that Rav Henoch says that you could. Everyone quotes him in that name, that you could quote the meaning in the Chafetz Chaim Yeshiva was at least then, I don't know if it's now, to shave on every Friday. He said, oh no, he wasn't denying what I said. He thought Rav Henoch's not a posek. It's Rav Scheinberg who says that, he tells me. He says Rav Scheinberg says that you could, the one from Torah Orange, or the one with a lot of tzitzis, he says you could shave, and it's not only, I think it's Rav Henoch Leibowitz as well, and it's also Rav Aaron Lichtenstein. He also, that was his minig, he used to shave, even though we'll see the Rav said you could shave every day, that obviously Rav Aaron didn't follow that minig. The Rav Aaron followed the minig apparently that he shaves on every Friday. And in fact, it's an interesting sefer. I forget the name of it. But it's interesting. Why is it interesting? Well, a lot of svarim are interesting by what's inside. This is even interesting how it became a sefer, and I'm sure it's very interesting what's in it as well. But there's a person who used. There's another sefer they do, I guess, with different gedolim. There's a sefer. Someone went fouling around the stipler, and he asked any second. He shepherded him questions, and he wrote down all, and he put a sefer out. This person did this to Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach. But this person was very honest and true. He quoted everything verbatim, word for word. How do I know? Because in one of the tshuvas, so he quotes.
Halicha Shlomo you're talking about?
No, it's not the Halicha Shlomo. It's I can't think of it. If you name it, it's a different name. It's like some words from like davening. I'll come back to it hopefully. But either way, the sefer is, and then I'll tell you next week what it is. But so he says it word for word what he asked, and what Rosh Hashanah. So one time Rosh Hashanah said back to him, "How long did you learn in yeshiva?" In other words, like, you were asking me this question. Like, in other words, he even wrote stuff that was incriminating to him. Like, what kind of question is that? Go ask a fifth grader. I'm sure it wasn't. Or it's funny. He writes the Haskama, if you could call it a Haskama. In the Haskama, he writes. He told the children of Rav Shlomo what he was doing, and they begged him, please, don't print the sefer. He never knew he was just answering questions. He never knew it was going into print. So he writes this in the Haskama. He puts it in there. The kids telling him not to write it. I understand your point, but I'm going to write it anyway. But I'm going to write it. So everything here seems to be pretty verbatim. So and he's quoting everything. Yeah, I guess I don't know if he put it on an MP3 and went back, or he just had a good memory. I'm not sure how it worked. So either way, I guess like thinking aloud supposed to be like the Rav Sefer, that the person that what's his name, Holtzman from Miami Beach. So he put out something on the Rav where he's basically he asks questions and he's just writing back what the Rav said. But either way, so one of the questions, so he went to him. I don't know if he knew. Actually, I think this person was a Talmud of Rabbi Aaron Lichtenstein. That's what made it more interesting. He went to. By the way, Rabbi Aaron Lichtenstein, Rabbi was of course the Rav. But when he moved to Eretz Yisrael, he felt he had to have a Rebbe close by. Even though I'm sure he always held the Rav was his Rebbe and his mishpacha. But so it's not so easy for Rabbi Lichtenstein to find someone who knows more than him, or at least someone he thinks does, or someone he could speak to. So he made Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach his Rav, or his when he wanted to discuss questions, he went to Rav Shlomo, and apparently they became very close, and he spoke the world of Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach. So it's interesting. He was a student of Rav Aaron, this person who wrote the Sefer. He went to Rav Shlomo Zalman. He said Rosh Yeshiva Echad. He didn't mention him by name. I'm assuming he's talking about Rav Aaron. Said you're allowed to shave on Erev Shabbos during Sefira's Omer. How do you feel about that, Rav Shlomo Zalman? So Rav Shlomo Zalman says, I hear the Svara, because it's only a minute during Sefira and L'Kavod Shabbos, but we don't find one Nosei no one on the Shulchan Aruch made that suggestion. And it's not something that should come up now. We have all these years where people can ask that question. No one, Svara, I see it. So of course, and I know what the Rosh Yeshiva Echad will say, and it's a good svara. Of course, the Nosei didn't say it because people had beards then, so it never came up. Just like the child of taking haircuts every Friday doesn't come up, because who's asking the question? That's what Rav Aaron says, because today we have observant Jews who don't shave, so of course, again, I guess the same issue, kind of like shaving a Chol Hamoed. Avad Yosef's approach was, it didn't mention the Gemara, I don't want to know anymore. But the Rav Moshe said, no, it has to be something the Gemara would reasonably could mention. If it's not something they would think of, you don't have to say because the Gemara didn't mention it. So it's kind of like the same thing here. So Rav Shlomo Zalman, even though he still says no, but he says, I hear the Svara, let's say, maybe not to be Malcha, I forgot his exact lesson, but I think he went back to the Rosh Yeshiva. I think Rav Aaron found him a source. I don't know if it was a Chazim, so I think he ended up finding him like someone who does say that. So he went back and forth. And ultimately, Rav Shlomo Zalman never said yes, but he moved much closer on accepting it. His psak was still no, he didn't do it, but he felt, he wasn't as strong after. And what was Rav Aaron's raya? He had many rayas, but one of his rayas I think he had 3. But one of Rav Aaron's rayas was it's based on, I believe, a Magen Avram. The Magen Avram says, Erev Shabbos Chazon. What about, again, so you get into what you do during the 3 weeks, the 9 days. So he quotes in the Magen Avram talks about.
In all of halacha, isn't there, if Erev Shabbos is Rosh Chodesh, that is brought down?
Yeah, they brought, right. It was a couple of years ago where Rosh Chodesh, what they eat. So they say you could shave, yeah.
So that is brought down.
Yeah, that's brought down, yeah.
So that wouldn't be enough of a proof? You see that in other words, that Sefira does get knocked out by a. So what's the difference between Friday, Rosh Chodesh, and so it means that you have a double. You have Rosh Chodesh and you have.
It only happens once.
Right, I guess. Right. So
It by definition only happens once.
Right, but you see that the Sefira says, in other words, Shlomo Zalman said that I don't.
But also, you could say, what about Lag BaOmer this year when it's on Sunday? As opposed to say you could
bring it.
Yeah, so people say.
No, you see that it has.
I know,
but it's by definition only once.
I know. I'll tell you what.
Week after week.
I'll tell you why it's different. I'll tell you why it's because so at the end, I think that was one of the proofs they asked for Shlomo Zalman, or maybe it was on the postscript. He said yes. He says so people think why are we shaving will cover Shabbos. If let's say Lag BaOmer is on Sunday, or so whether it was Shlomo Zalman or someone else says no, that's not why we're shaving, or else. He says, we're not shaving on covered Shabbos, or else we'd shave every week. It's a question if you want to bring this a riot any way you want. You know why we're not shaving? Because we know where you are, because the bizayon to Shabbos. If you didn't shave on Sunday, we won't let you shave on Friday. By you shaving on Sunday, and not on Friday, that's the bizayon, now we're worried about. There's no heter out covered. He'll say the minig is not to do it, so it's not in fact, I think the Chasam Sofer they quote, what do you mean covered? It's a yid should have a beard, so it's covered that when you're growing your beard, that's the covered Shabbos. Or they say, I don't know if the stories are true, but they say over Moshe in Staten Island, like they asked the Mashayel once to kiss someone, I guess it was Shabbos, and their hat fell in the mud. It was the only hat they had, and should they wear it during davening? So again, what they say, Rav Moshe said was, that's the biggest covet. It's not cleaning your hat because it's also to clean on Shabbos. That type of hat, that's a real covet. Or I think Rev the one from Cleveland, the tells Yeshiva, what's his name again? The one.
Rev Gifter?
Yeah, Rev Gifter. So they say, he says also, shaving, not shaving, that's a covet. You're not shaving because the halacha tells you not to. That, that's what they go back to Eine Leah Rakos, the eyes of Leah. Why is the Torah telling me like she had ugly eyes, or she's... No, because Rashi, the Chazal tell us because she was crying because she thought she'd have to marry Esau. That's a shevach of Leah. So it depends if it's shevach that you have this, but so that's how they look at it. But either way, getting back to Rav Aaron's Raya, he wants to say like this. That's why Lag BaOmer is not right. It doesn't say it's a bizayon to Shabbos, but it's covered, you can't do it. So Rav Aaron has an interesting Magen Avram by the 9 days. Shabbos Chazon, the luck is you're allowed to take a shower. You're allowed to take a shower before Shabbos or something. But they say shaving, you can't take a haircut or shave, or you can't shave on Erev Shabbos Chazon. And the Magen Avram writes because why? Because you could have shaved or took a haircut. You don't shave and take haircuts every week like showers, and therefore there's no reason why there's no heter. So the Rabbi says from a diak in the Magen Avram, what's mash from this Magen Avram? Why can't you take a shave on Erev Shabbos? Because you don't do it every time because people have beards. But if you give me a Heichat Timsa where you do it, so that was one of Rav Aaron's rayas based on this Magen. That's what Rav Shlomo Zalman, he liked it. He said, oh, you have to go looking. That was his time. You have to go looking for some diak in a Magen Avram. Why didn't anyone else say it? That's a general question. Could you have is that an argument or not? And no one else, sometimes you have to figure out when is that good, when is it? Because you find different. Well, it didn't say it, so therefore others say that's not a riot. So exactly.
What's this for again?
No, it's more
because you can't.
Right. The Magen Avram says you can't shave or shave or haircut on Erev Shabbos because you don't do it every week. So why? Well, it's not like you're taking a haircut every Friday. So why should I let you do it on when it's us to shave? The implications being, if you did do it every Friday, then you'd be permitted to shave Shabbos Chazon, which I guess Rav Aaron had the right. I guess that's what he does. Then he shaves on Erev Shabbos Chazon. By the way, Shua Shachobo is the problem. Shua Shachobo, according to Rav Moshe's heter is only really during the 9 days. Rav Moshe says Shua Shachobo no, and even the Rav, if you go with Yud Beis Chodesh, the Shua Shachobo has a din of Shlosha. That's the Yikid din HaGemara, Shua Shachobo. So it's not so simple about. I'm not saying you can't, but it's not so simple shaving during Shua Shachobo. But either way, so getting back, so that's what Rav Aaron's Shita was, and whether Rav Shlomo Zalman liked it or not, But the bottom line, and apparently that's the meaning in certain yeshivas, maybe Chafetz Chaim, and apparently, according to what someone told me, Rabbi Goldstein from the diaspora yeshiva quoted me, Rav Steinberg, he says about taking haircuts Erev Shabbos. So that's one shita. And then you have the Rav who says you could shave all the time. Well, let me explain what he means. It depends. He says the Rav it goes by categories. So he's a brisker. So therefore, you can't just say minhagim. What minig of what? It's either Shiva, Shloshim, or Yud Beis Chodesh. Which one? So the Rav says Sefira Omer is the din of Yud Beis Chodesh. And therefore, what's the din to really it's also to shave during Shiva and Shloshim. It's really also to shave during Yud Beis Chodesh. What's the heter to shave during Yud Beis Chodesh? That if you look like a manuvel. So it's a discussion in whether you have to actually a friend has to come over to you and tell you look like one, or maybe looking in the mirror might be enough.
But that's for all of Yud Beis Chodesh, or that's just for the first of the 30?
That's Rabbi Kiva Eger's question. He says, so what's the pshat? So now I wait a couple, let's say, after Shlosh Amukim and Novo, now what? Do I have to wait every, whatever it is, a week, 3 days? Or, basically, is it a matir, once it's mutter, or do I say, no, it's a din? So, Rabbi Kiva Eger, we assume that it's a matir, that we assume once it is, we think that once it's broken, you can shave all the time. However, Rabbi Lamb, Dr. Lamb, his meaning on Sefira, I'm not sure about Yud Beis Chodesh, but it would make sense to be machmir and Sefira Omer like this, but who knows? But I heard that Dr. Lamb's sheet is, he goes with, during the Rav held that every day you can shave. Once you look at Menuvel, that's it. You have a heter every day. And Dr. Lamb went with the 3-day shita. He felt every time you had to wait again to look like a Menuvel. So you have the Rav that basically you can shave every day. Once you look like a Menuvel, then that's it. You have the heter to shave during Sefira, or it depends on some, that's why some say, or every 1-2 days, and assuming within the, assuming whether the Rav said you have to wait another day or two, and then you had the Dr. Lamb who said the 3 days. You have Erev Shabbos, and those are different. Some of the different heterim, but shaving regularly or shaving before Shabbos. So I guess I'll just tell you about. I guess we'll have to come back to music next week. But let me just tell you about Yom Ha'atzmaut for a minute, since it'll be too late. Maybe you want it when it's too late. But either way, there was interesting. Someone told me I wanted I think your Hurim blogs. I don't know anything about blogs. Is that a blog? So last year, someone raised the issue. There are those people who, again, assuming you're in the camp, the Yom Ha'atzmaut is the day to celebrate, and you're going to go to a party. So they were discussing the issue. Why do some people, they go to a Yom Ha'atzmaut celebration with music and dancing, but they don't shave? Does that make any sense? Should you be shaving on Yom Ha'atzmaut? So, again, we have to get into music next week, but the point being is, so it goes back to a point I made before. One could be machalot between the two. In other words, there is whether you think to shave on them. I'm not saying you can't. I'm not saying there's no heter, but there is room to machalot between someone who will listen to music and dance, but not to why, because as I mentioned earlier, to begin this year, that really haircuts makes the Shulchan Aruch. Haircuts and shaving, even though it's after weddings, but it makes the cut in the Shulchan Aruch. I didn't get to yet, but the Aruch HaShulchan is the first one to bring up music. That's a much later institution. So therefore, there are those who will, more willing to listen to music, but shaving. So again, the issue by shaving is also another issue. The question is, clearly, I'm not a music guy, so you could probably help me out better. I'm not into dancing and music all year round. So, but in terms of, it makes sense to enhance the Yom Ha'atzmaut celebration, or any celebration. You can have music, even live music and dancing. That makes sense to someone who's dancing and singing. The question is, does shaving, being unshaven, really enhance or being shaven? So if the answer is yes, that you feel that being taking a shave really, so then Al Pi Sefira, then you should then his basis to shave. But if your shaving really doesn't make a difference to you in terms of the celebration, and people are going to know it's Sefira, so then there'd be less of it. So all I'm just pointing out is, I'm not saying shave music or not, but I'm saying there is some logic to that distinction to those who will go to a Yom HaAtzmaut party and still not shave. That's all my nakuda I'm making here. I'm not saying there is justification. Those who feel shaving will enhance their Yom HaAtzmaut, then they have a right to shave as well. But
shaving has consequences in the following days. Music and celebrating is today, has no consequences tomorrow.
Right, so there'll be the consequence that that now you have to go back. You don't have your Sefira beard anymore.
Right. It's something that it's a sort of a diminution of the minig of being unshaven.
Right. So obviously, in fact, they say Rabbi Tzvi, Rav Kook in Merkaz Harav, whichever one it was, he used to on Yom HaAtzmaut, he used to go into the Beis HaMedrash and scream at people who didn't shave it. You don't believe in the Medina. You're not shaving on Yom HaAtzmaut. He used to go in and throw them out of the Beis HaMedrash. Or interesting, they say, it's funny, a friend of mine told me a story. He was going on a date in Brooklyn, a nice Brooklyn girl. He's during Sefira, he's not going to shave, so she probably won't go out with him or something. So he gets there, and apparently he didn't know the father was a YU guy. He learned by the Rav. It might have been. So he said, I don't get it. Didn't you learn by the Rav salvation? He says there's a chiyuv to shave during Sefira. So how could you not shave? He felt very uncomfortable. But the point being is, they say the Rav, he used to go and tell you look like Menuva. When you're waiting for a heter to shave, he used to go to the people in the Beis HaMedrash just before my time. During my time, apparently the minig was most people didn't shave. But the earlier, before my time, apparently the minig, people followed the Rav's minig of shaving. If you didn't shave, he came and said, you look like a Menuva. Is that what you're waiting for? Now you can go and shave. So why say by Chol there's clearly a mitzvah. There's a mitzvah to shave because of Yontif. The Rav felt it's a mitzvah for a ben Torah always to look well kept. You're making a kiddush Hashem. You always have to. I guess it's hard to say in the yeshiva with a guy walking around with his shirts out and then the shaving's going to make it. Assuming you're well kept, maybe that's the difference. Maybe during those days people actually today people walk around like slumps all the time, so maybe it's a social issue, but it's interesting. The Rav used to go in during Sefira and tell people to look at Menuva and send them to go shave.
Is he connecting that with me?
So he did that even without Yom HaAtzmaut. Yeah, go on.
No, I mean with Shloshim.
Yeah, he's saying it's like Yud Beis Chodesh. And therefore, the din of Yud Beis Chodesh is, and therefore he says you look, and therefore once you're allowed to shave, he says you're chayav, because it's a chayav for a ben Torah to look well kept, and therefore you should always shave. If you're allowed to, if he held it was usher, then obviously he wouldn't tell you to shave. But since it's mutter now, because people don't have beards, so therefore if you had beards, you wouldn't look like a menuvel. So big deal, you didn't shave. No one can tell the difference. So both they had similar policies of going into the Beis HaMedrash and throwing, attacking the people who wouldn't shave.
It's interesting to note, and so tangentially, that in Shmuel Beis, David HaMelech sent his ambassadors to Ammon, and they cut off half the beard to insult them. So then they asked in Yerushalayim, so what do we do now? So he said to them, stay in Yericho until it grows back, which is a long time. He didn't say, cut off the other half and arrive clean shaven. As the person in those days, it was a bizoyan to be clean shaven.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So a lot depends on what.
Because I guess they felt because the yid has a beard and stuff.
Sure.
That's
Why do they call him a galach?
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Right. So I guess that was the same way today.
Huh?
You said Yericho, didn't they?
Yericho.
The same way today it's called clean shaving. They're putting a stigma on those who have a beard. So it was the opposite, if you had a, that was the norm. That's what they get into. Is it a surah of the Yid to have a beard, or is this a pragmatic thing because you couldn't shave? So that gets into the theological discussion.
It's interesting today because there was a time obviously that people did shave and they shaved carefully and they shaved every day. Today it's not uncommon, and you see it in the popular that people do keep a 2 or 3 day.
Have a shadow,
Yeah, it's a very stylish.
Exactly,
and people can go into business like that.
No, exactly. That's a discussion then, right? Within the Rav Shita, what is considered? It could be maybe it's not every day. It could be two. That's what I'm saying. You can discuss where the number is, but it doesn't make sense if you assume that the first time is a heter for the whole time, then you won't have to worry. But let's say going with Dr. Lamb Shita, then it could be 2 days. It could be 4 days. There's not a set amount to what that would be. That could be based on societal. What's considered, Sometimes, when they walked around with shadows, that was just, different styles change in terms of that. So I guess